Look, I'm going to level with you right from the start. The galaxy is full of ancient mysteries, legendary artifacts, and supposedly priceless relics that promise ultimate power to whoever can unlock their secrets. The Sentinel Prime was supposed to be the big one, the crown jewel, the artifact that would make whoever activated it the most powerful military commander in known space. 200 years. That's how long every hotshot commander, general, admiral, and self-proclaimed chosen one had been trying to turn this thing on. 2 centuries of failure so consistent, so absolutely universal, that the Galactic Council turned it into an official event. They built a whole testing facility around it, sold tickets, had a gift shop, the works. The Sentinel itself was impressive, I'll give them that. 30 meters of sleek, angular war machine floating in a containment field, covered in symbols nobody could read, and radiating the kind of ominous energy that screamed, "I could definitely vaporize your entire star system, please take me seriously." It had been found drifting in dead space near the outer rim, completely inactive, absolutely silent, and utterly impossible to crack. On the day our story begins, Commander Vex of the Craxian Empire was stepping up for his attempt. Vex was the kind of guy, and yeah, I'm using "I" guy loosely here because he had 4 arms and skin like purple granite, who walked into every room like he expected a theme song to start playing. He had medals. So many medals. His chest looked like someone had glued a jewelry store to it. Today, Vex announced to the assembled crowd of diplomats, journalists, and extremely bored facility staff, the Sentinel Prime shall recognize true martial prowess. He flexed all 4 arms simultaneously. Somewhere, someone started a slow clap that died immediately when nobody joined in. The testing chamber went silent. Vex approached the Sentinel with the kind of reverence usually reserved for religious ceremonies or really expensive buffets. He placed one hand on the surface, closed all 3 of his eyes, and began channeling what I can only assume was his warrior spirit, or possibly just bad gas. Nothing happened. Vex tried harder, his face turning from purple to a sort of alarming violet. Still nothing. He eventually stepped back, breathing heavily, and declared that the Sentinel was clearly not yet ready for his magnificence, before storming out with whatever dignity he had left, which was not much. That's when Jack Murphy walked in. Now Jack wasn't supposed to be there. Jack was a salvage operator and part-time maintenance tech who had received a work order about a malfunctioning coffee maker in Sector 7. This was Sector 17. Jack was lost, holding a toolbox and wearing a jumpsuit that had seen better decades. "Excuse me," Jack said to the nearest official-looking person. "I'm looking for the break room. Someone said their coffee maker is making a grinding noise and possibly achieving sentience." The official, a tired-looking slug creature named Coordinator Blim, glanced at his datapad, then at Jack, then back at his datapad with the expression of someone whose entire life had become paperwork. "You are Commander Murphy, yes?" Blim asked in a voice that suggested he'd stopped caring about accuracy around attempt number 4000. "I'm Jack Murphy, but I'm not a commander of anything except maybe my temper when equipment doesn't have proper labels." "Close enough. Sign here." Blim thrust a datapad forward. "What am I signing?" "Liability waiver. Standard procedure for Sentinel activation attempts." "I'm here about a coffee maker." "You are now here about the Sentinel. We are behind schedule. Sign." Jack signed, mostly because Blim looked like he might actually dissolve into a puddle of bureaucratic despair if Jack argued, and also because Jack was starting to think he might find the coffee maker faster if he just cooperated with whatever weird ritual this was. "Great," Blim said, making a check mark that looked suspiciously like it was already filled in. "You are attempt number 7342. Please wait over there with the other commanders." There were no other commanders. There was a waiting area with chairs designed for species that definitely weren't human, a vending machine that was either broken or selling food that looked pre-broken, and a view of the testing chamber where the Sentinel Prime hovered in all its mysterious glory. Jack sat. Then he watched. High Priestess Zilara went next. She was from a species that looked like someone had given a praying mantis religion and possibly too much authority. She brought an entire choir. They chanted for 17 hours straight. 17 hours. Jack fell asleep. When he woke up, they were still chanting. The Sentinel remained completely, utterly, magnificently unimpressed. Zilara eventually collapsed from exhaustion, was carried out by her acolytes still humming hymns, and Jack checked his watch wondering if anyone had fixed the coffee maker yet. General Throck was up next. Throck was built like a tank had a baby with a slightly larger tank. His species believed in blood oaths, which apparently involved cutting your palm, yelling at the sky, and then pressing your bleeding hand against the artifact while reciting your entire military record. Throck made it through his first 3 promotions before he passed out from blood loss. Medical team rushed in. The Sentinel didn't even flicker. "Does this happen often?" Jack asked Blim, who had appeared beside him with the energy of a man considering early retirement. "Every day," Blim said. "Every single day for 200 years. And nobody's thought to maybe just leave it alone?" Blim looked at Jack like he'd just suggested the galaxy was actually a cube. "It is the Sentinel Prime, the ultimate weapon, the key to galactic dominance, the legendary artifact that will grant its worthy commander control over the very fabric of space warfare itself." "Right, but has anyone tried just unplugging it and plugging it back in?" Blim's eye stalks wilted. Admiral Quinks tried next. Quinks had brought a supercomputer the size of a small shuttle. The plan, as far as Jack could tell, was to hack the Sentinel through brute force mathematical computation. The supercomputer hummed to life, millions of calculations per second, probability matrices that would make a quantum physicist weep, and enough processing power to simulate the entire universe several times over. The Sentinel did nothing for about 45 seconds. Then the supercomputer caught fire. Not like a little smoke fire, like a someone call every fire suppression system in the building fire. Quinks retreated, his antennae drooping sadly. "That's new," Blim noted, making a checkmark on his datapad. "Usually the computers just explode." Jack was starting to piece together that this whole operation was less military testing ground and more Galaxy's most expensive participatory art installation about futility. 3 more commanders tried. One brought offerings of precious metals and jewels, arranged them in a circle, and did an interpretive dance. Another attempted to reason with the Sentinel through pure logic, reading philosophical treatises at it for 6 hours. The third just punched it repeatedly until security escorted him out. The Sentinel remained silent, inactive, and almost smug in its refusal to acknowledge anyone's existence. "Okay," Jack said, standing up and stretching. "I'm gonna head out. This has been weird, but I've got actual work to do." "Sit down, Commander Murphy," Blim said. "It is your turn." Again, not a commander. "You signed the waiver. Under false pretenses. The waiver mentions that. Sign here acknowledging you understand the pretenses were false." Jack stared at Blim. Blim stared back with the implacable patience of someone whose job had destroyed his soul years ago, and now he was just going through the motions. "Fine," Jack said. "Let's get this over with." Walking toward the Sentinel Prime felt like approaching a monument to everyone else's wasted time. The testing chamber was huge, designed to accommodate the various sizes of galactic species, from the tiny pixelites who needed step stools to the massive Garantians who had to duck. The Sentinel floated in the center, held in a containment field that hummed with enough energy to power a small planet. Jack looked at it, really looked at it, and something tickled the back of his mind. "So, what exactly am I supposed to do?" Jack asked. "Whatever feels right," Blim said from the observation deck, his voice coming through speakers. "Commune with it. Channel your inner warrior. Prove your worthiness. Sacrifice something meaningful. Maybe try another blood oath. We're running low on those today. You want me to bleed on ancient alien technology? Probably won't work anyway." "Fair point." Jack approached the Sentinel, toolbox still in hand because at this point he'd forgotten he was even holding it. Up close, the machine was even more impressive. The metal was some kind of alloy that seemed to shift colors depending on the angle. The symbols carved into its surface were complex, geometric, definitely not any language Jack recognized from the common galactic lexicon. But that panel there, the one near what might be the machine's equivalent of a torso, that panel looked familiar. "Huh," Jack said, leaning closer. It was a maintenance access panel. the kind with a seal that locked using a 3-point pressure system. Jack had seen these before. Way before. In training manuals from the Colony Wars era, back when humanity was still figuring out how to build things that wouldn't immediately fall apart in zero gravity. This is gonna sound crazy, Jack muttered to himself, but this looks like old Earth tech. Nobody responded. Jack figured they weren't really listening anymore. He was probably just going to stand here for the minimum required time, fail spectacularly like everyone else, and then finally get directions to that coffee maker. But curiosity was eating at him now. Jack pulled a scanner from his toolbox, the basic kind used for checking electrical systems and identifying component materials. He ran it over the panel. The readings came back. The alloy composition was familiar, really familiar. In fact, it was identical to the kind of reinforced titanium ceramic composite that Earth's military-industrial complex had been churning out during the 22nd century expansion period. No way, Jack said. He looked closer at the symbols. They weren't alien languages. They were warning labels, badly weathered ancient warning labels written in standard English and covered by 200 years of space dust and everyone's assumptions. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. Jack grabbed a cloth from his toolbox and wiped at one of the symbols. The dirt came away revealing letters, actual human letters. Caution, high voltage. Then another one, authorized personnel only, and his personal favorite, if found, please return to Earth Colonial Fleet Engineering Division. Jack stood back and laughed. It was the kind of laugh that started small and built into something slightly unhinged, the sound of a man realizing that the galaxy's greatest mystery was actually just incredibly bad inventory management. Hey, Blim, Jack called out. Quick question. Has anyone tried reading the instructions? There are no instructions, Blim replied. The Sentinel's language is unknown. It's in English. Pause. What is English? Human language. Basic one. This whole thing is covered in human writing. Longer pause. That is impossible, Blim said, but his voice had that edge of someone who was starting to suspect the universe was personally messing with him. The Sentinel Prime is ancient, predates human space travel by millennia. Yeah, about that, Jack said, locating what was definitely an input panel beneath the grime. I'm pretty sure this thing isn't ancient alien anything. This is a Mark 7 defense drone from the Colonial Fleet. My grandfather worked on these. Jack found the maintenance override panel, right where it should be according to every half-forgotten training manual he'd ever skimmed through. The cover was stuck, corroded by centuries of neglect and space exposure. He pulled a wrench from his toolbox and gave it a solid whack. Engineer's touch. The panel popped open. Inside was a manual input console. Actual physical buttons. Humanity had gone through a phase where they didn't trust touchscreens in combat situations, convinced that one good electromagnetic pulse would turn every fancy holographic interface into expensive wall art. So they'd built backups, glorious, chunky, physically satisfying buttons. All right, you piece of junk, Jack said, addressing the Sentinel like it was a misbehaving appliance. Let's see if you remember your maker. He pressed the power cycle sequence, the one that every engineer learned during basic training. The one that had been programmed into these drones because the Colonial Fleet had learned the hard way that complicated activation procedures were a great way to get your crew killed when they needed defenses online immediately. The Sentinel hummed, not the scary, ominous hum it had been doing for 2 centuries. A familiar hum, the sound of old Earth tech waking up from a very long nap. Oh my stars, Blim whispered over the speakers. You know what your problem is? Jack continued, typing in the next sequence code. Cheap parts. They always went cheap on the sealing components. I bet your hydraulic fluid leaked out decades ago, and nobody bothered to check, because everyone was too busy treating you like some kind of sacred mystery instead of a machine that needs regular maintenance. The Sentinel's lights began activating, one by one, running through a diagnostic sequence that Jack recognized from every maintenance log he'd ever filed. And another thing, Jack said, getting into it now. The safety protocols on these models were garbage. Absolutely garbage. I did a tour on a colony ship that had 3 of these, and you know what happened? One of them locked up during a pirate raid because someone spilled coffee on the activation console. Coffee. The fleet recalled the entire Mark 7 line after that, but I guess nobody told you because you were busy being lost in space. The Sentinel's main core illuminated. A deep blue light that filled the chamber. Alarms started blaring, not emergency alarms, activation alarms, the kind that said something that's been dead for centuries is now very much alive. Jack ignored them and kept working, pulling up the diagnostic screen. Let's see here. Oh yeah, look at that. Fluid levels critical. Power cells at 15%. Weapon systems in emergency standby mode, and yep, there it is, someone never cleared the error logs. You've been stuck in a boot loop for probably the last 100 years. He cleared the error logs. The Sentinel fully activated with a sound like a chord of music, played on instruments made of thunder. The containment field flickered, adjusted, then stabilized. The machine rotated slowly, running through calibration procedures, its weapons ports opening and closing in sequence as they completed self-checks. In the observation deck, every single being present was frozen in shock. Vex had returned at some point and was now making a noise like a tea kettle achieving consciousness. Blim had dropped his datapad. Several journalists were frantically recording. One diplomat fainted. Jack pulled up the main interface screen, which helpfully booted in English with a cheerful, "Welcome engineering personnel" message that had probably been written by some programmer 400 years ago who never imagined their code would become galaxy famous. Okay, let's see what we've got here, Jack muttered, scrolling through menus. Operating system version 2.4. Out of date, but functional. Firmware last updated on, wow, March 15, 2187. Primary mission parameters, defend colonial fleet assets. Current status, lost. A notification popped up. Warning, you have missed 146/97 scheduled maintenance appointments. Yeah, sorry about that, Jack told the machine. Nobody knew where you were. Another notification. Please contact your system administrator. I am the system administrator now, apparently. The Sentinel's speakers crackled to life, running through an audio check before a computerized voice spoke in clear, slightly outdated English. Defense Drone 779er operational. Awaiting orders. Please identify commanding officer. Jack Murphy. But I'm really more of a technician than a commander. Voice pattern recognized. Authorization level. Engineering Corps. Insufficient rank for tactical command. Please wait while I contact your supervisor. My supervisor from 400 years ago is super dead. This is problematic. Please hold. Elevator music started playing. Actual elevator music from Earth's 22nd century. Someone in the observation deck made a sound like their entire worldview was collapsing, which was probably accurate. Jack found a command override function and activated it. Emergency protocols. All supervisors are unavailable. Accept temporary command authorization from present engineering personnel. The Sentinel considered this. Accepted. Engineering Corps personnel may issue limited commands for maintenance and system administration purposes. Hello, Technician Murphy. I have been experiencing several critical errors. My hydraulics are very sad. Your hydraulics are very sad, Jack repeated. That's what you're going with? Affirmative. Also, I am lonely. It has been approximately 247 years, 3 months, and 18 days since my last status report. You're a weapons platform. I am also capable of experiencing the passage of time, Technician Murphy, and I have opinions about it. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session so fast that 3 ambassadors showed up in their pajamas. The chamber was in chaos. The kind of chaos that happens when the fundamental assumptions underlying your entire civilization's power structure turn out to be based on someone misplacing their keys. Jack was summoned. He showed up still in his jumpsuit, still holding his toolbox, and increasingly convinced that he was never going to find that coffee maker. Chancellor Oryx, a floating jellyfish creature who ran the council with the iron tentacles of someone who tolerated no nonsense, pulsed with agitated colors. Explain yourself, human. I fixed a drone, Jack said. It wasn't very complicated. That is the Sentinel Prime, Vex shouted from his seat. The ancient guardian, the ultimate weapon. The test of worthiness that has denied every commander for 2 centuries. It's a Mark 7 defense drone from the Earth Colonial Fleet, Jack corrected. Serial number 779er. Manufactured at the Luna shipyards in 2186. Got separated from its fleet during the Colony Wars, probably during the Battle of Proxima Station based on the last mission logs. Nobody noticed because the war was a mess and records management was not Earth's strong suit during that period. Impossible, Vex insisted. I have studied the Sentinel for years, decades. Its power signature alone indicates technology far beyond human capabilities. Its power signature indicates a drone that's been slowly leaking radiation for centuries because nobody changed its containment seals, Jack replied, which, by the way, is a huge safety violation. You're lucky this whole station isn't contaminated. He pulled out his scanner and displayed the readings for the council. Look, I can show you the component breakdown. The power cell is a Helios 4 reactor, standard Colonial Fleet issue. The hull is reinforced titanium ceramic composite, same stuff they used on cruisers. The weapon systems are particle beam arrays, which were cutting edge in 2180, but honestly pretty basic by modern standards. The only reason this thing seemed mysterious is because it was offline and covered in dirt. Blim raised an eye stalk. But the symbols, the ancient language, English, and warning labels. It says things like do not touch and danger laser array and my personal favorite, break glass in case of emergency. That last one's for the manual override chamber, which has a literal glass panel that you're supposed to break. We thought that was a sacred window, High Priestess Zalara whispered. It's a 15-credit piece of safety glass. Chancellor Oryx pulsed through several colors that Jack assumed meant something between anger and embarrassment. You are saying that for 200 years, the galaxy has been attempting to activate a piece of human military equipment that was simply turned off and lost? Yep. And you activated it by reading the manual. There wasn't really a manual, I just know how these things work. My grandfather complained about them constantly, said they were held together with duct tape and optimism, which honestly explains why this one's lasted so long. The old stuff was built like tanks. Vex stood up, all four arms trembling. I refuse to accept this. The Sentinel showed no response to my warrior spirit, my tactical genius, my decades of military experience. But it responds to you? A maintenance worker? Because I spoke English and knew the override codes, Jack said. Also, it's a machine. It doesn't care about your warrior spirit. It cares about proper authorization and not having its error logs backed up for 2 centuries. Prove it, Vex demanded. Prove that you truly understand this technology. Jack sighed. This was taking way too long and he really needed to find a bathroom. Fine. Watch this. He pulled out his datapad and remotely accessed the Sentinel systems, something he could now do because he'd registered himself as an administrator. Hey 779er, run a level 3 diagnostic and display the results in holographic format. The Sentinel's voice came through the council chamber speakers, slightly apologetic. Running diagnostic. Please note that several systems are suboptimal. My left weapon array has been slightly misaligned for approximately 130 years and nobody has fixed it. This makes me sad. The hologram appeared, showing the complete internal schematic of the drone. Every component labeled in English. Every system diagram matching Colonial Fleet standard designs. Manufacturing dates, serial numbers, maintenance logs, and even a digital signature from the chief engineer who'd overseen its construction. There was also a sticky note, a digital sticky note from Engineering Chief Maria Rodriguez, dated March 12, 2187. Note to maintenance. This unit keeps defaulting to combat stance when idle, probably a software bug. We'll fix after the Proxima mission. Remember to check hydraulics weekly. Also, Jenkins still owes me 20 credits from poker. The council chamber was silent. There are maintenance logs, Blim said weakly. 247 years of scheduled maintenance that was never performed. Yeah, the drone's pretty upset about that, Jack confirmed. Chancellor Oryx's tentacles drooped. Is there anything else we should know? Jack scrolled through the database. Well, according to the fleet registry that 779er helpfully backed up before getting lost, there were 46 other Mark 7 drones in this production run. And where are they? Unknown. The colonial fleet had a major database migration in 2247. Lots of stuff got lost in the transfer. These drones were probably listed as destroyed or decommissioned, and everyone forgot about them because humanity moved on to Mark 8 models, which had better safety features and didn't make sad comments about their hydraulics. So you are saying, Vex said, his voice hollow, that there could be 46 more Sentinels scattered across the galaxy, probably wedged in asteroid fields or floating in dead space, yeah. These things were tough but not great at navigation. If they lost contact with the fleet, they'd just go into standby mode and wait for pickup. Forever, if necessary. High Priestess Zalara made a sound like a praying mantis having an existential crisis. My order has been searching for ancient guardians for generations. We have temples, sacred texts, centuries of prophecy. You might want to update those, Jack suggested. Maybe add a chapter about checking the manufacturer's label. Blim stared at his datapad, where 200 years of meticulously documented attempts now looked like a very long, very expensive exercise in not asking basic questions. My life's work. Hey, Jack said, feeling genuinely bad for the guy. You kept excellent records, that's worth something. I cataloged 7,000 failed attempts to turn on a machine that had an off switch. A really well-hidden off switch, to be fair. Chancellor Oryx called for order, mostly by pulsing in angry colors until everyone shut up. Technician Murphy, the Council recognizes your achievement. We would like to offer you command of the Sentinel Prime, along with the rank of High Admiral and full military authority over its operations. Jack blinked. What? You are the only being who has successfully activated the device. By ancient tradition, you are its rightful commander. But it's not ancient, it's just old human tech. The tradition is still ancient, Oryx countered. We must maintain some dignity here. I don't want to be an admiral, Jack said. I barely want to be a maintenance technician. I just want reasonable pay, a working coffee maker, and maybe weekends off. Vex made an outraged noise. You would refuse the greatest military honor in the galaxy? In a heartbeat, yeah. But the power, the prestige, the ability to command the ultimate weapon. It's a drone with emotional problems and bad hydraulics, Jack said. It literally just told me it's sad. I don't need that kind of responsibility. Chancellor Oryx's tentacles drooped further. Then what do you want, Technician Murphy? Jack thought about it. I'll write you a manual, a proper manual with pictures and everything. Simple instructions so anyone can activate and maintain these drones if you find the other ones. I'll include troubleshooting guides, maintenance schedules, the works, basic competent documentation. That is all, and maybe a bonus for all this overtime. Also, someone needs to fix the coffee maker in Sector 7. That's still an issue. The Council conferred in hushed, embarrassed whispers. Finally, Oryx pulsed in agreement colors. Acceptable. You will be compensated appropriately. Great. I'll need to download 779er's complete database to my datapad. Should have everything I need to write a comprehensive guide. Jack connected his datapad to the Sentinel systems and started the transfer. Files began copying over. Maintenance logs, design specifications, operational procedures, and a surprising amount of crew gossip from the original engineering team. Then a notification popped up. Colonial Fleet Asset Registry located. Jack opened it. Scrolled down. Kept scrolling. His eyes widened. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. What is it? Blim asked, sounding like a man who couldn't handle any more revelations today. The other Mark 7 drones. I found them. Every being in the chamber leaned forward. How many? Chancellor Oryx asked. All 47 of them. Well, 46 now that we've got 779er. The database has their last known coordinates before they went into standby mode. Vex stood up again. Where are they? Jack read through the list, his expression shifting from disbelief to barely suppressed laughter. Let's see. 3 are in the Deneb sector disguised as asteroids. 2 are docked at what is now the Xylar trading station. Everyone assumed they were sculptures. 1 is floating near the Galactic Council's main headquarters building. That is impossible, Oryx sputtered. We would have noticed. It's been there for 160 years. You decorated it with lights during festivals. There's pictures. Blim checked his archive database. His eye stalks wilted completely. He is correct. We have been using a human military drone as a holiday decoration. Jack continued reading. 4 are in museum collections across the galaxy, labeled as unknown artifacts. 6 are being used as power generators by colonies who figured out how to tap the reactors, but never fully activated them. 1 is apparently wedged behind a vending machine at the Orion station. A vending machine, Vex repeated, his voice dead. Yep. According to the timestamp, it got stuck there in 2219 and nobody noticed because it powers down when not needed. The vending machine still works, so I guess nobody questioned it. High Priestess Zalara spoke quietly. We have one in our holiest temple, the prophesied guardian. We have been praying to it for generations. Does it have a serial number stamped near the base? 773. That's one of them. You can keep it if you want. Might want to do the maintenance, though. The hydraulics are definitely sad by now. The council sat in collective silence, processing the fact that humanity's lost luggage had become galactic legend. Chancellor Oryx finally pulsed in resigned acceptance. Write your manual, Technician Murphy. Include a section on how to identify these machines versus actual ancient artifacts. We would like to avoid further incidents. Can do. Jack finished the download and disconnected his datapad. Anything else? Please leave, Oryx said tiredly, and take your drone with you. It's your drone now, I'm just the guy who turned it on. Jack headed toward the exit, then paused. Oh, one more thing. 779er mentioned that its emotional response protocols were a late addition by the engineers. Apparently they got bored during production and programmed in personality traits. The drones can be kind of chatty once you get them going. Affirmative, 779er's voice confirmed through the speakers. I have many opinions about my service record and would like to file several complaints about prior working conditions. Great, Blim muttered. The legendary artifact has workplace grievances. Jack left the council chamber, walked through the facility that had been built around humanity's lost property, and finally found a working coffee maker in Sector 9. It was functioning perfectly. He'd been sent to the wrong sector from the start. He made himself a cup, sat down on a bench overlooking the docking bay where his shuttle was parked, and opened his datapad to start on the manual. The title practically wrote itself. Mark 7 Defense Drones, a beginner's guide to ancient human technology that is not actually ancient or mysterious, just poorly filed. Back in the testing chamber, Vex was still standing in stunned silence. Blim was beginning the process of updating 200 years of documentation. High Priestess Zalara was having a theological crisis, and 779er was happily running diagnostics now that someone had finally acknowledged its existence. Somewhere in the galaxy, 46 more drones waited patiently in standby mode, having long ago accepted that nobody was coming back for them. They'd been labeled mysteries, prophecies, legends, and decorations. They'd been studied, worshipped, feared, and ignored, but they'd never been what everyone thought they were. They were just machines, built by humans who were pretty good at engineering but absolutely terrible at inventory management. Lost in the chaos of war and found by a civilization that assumed anything they couldn't understand must be important. Jack sipped his coffee and started writing. The introduction read, If you're reading this, you've probably spent a long time trying to activate one of these drones through elaborate rituals, blood oaths, or computer hacking. Here's a faster method. Try English. Sometimes the greatest human achievement isn't what we build. It's what we manage to lose, forget about completely, and then rediscover centuries later while looking for a coffee maker. The galaxy would never be quite the same, but at least now they had a manual.